Some students hid beneath blood-soaked bodies. Others texted desperate goodbyes. A few jumped from windows and broke their leg just to escape. Welcome to Omar's Story Nook, where history gets spicy, legends get a remix, and imagination runs wild. Every tale you hear is a whisper of Omar, echoing across time, truth, and silence. But today's whisper is heavier. It does not come from myth or memory. It rises from blood-stained notebooks and the dust of an abandoned dormitory. They were students, dreamers, sons and daughters from homes that scraped together coins for tuition because education was the promise, the path. Some were the first in their families to attend university. Some wanted to become teachers, doctors, scientists. They carried books in their bags and hope in their hearts. It was early morning, April 2nd, 2015, Garissa University College, Eastern Kenya. The sun was just beginning to warm the lecture halls. Laughter echoed in corridors. Coffee steamed from chipped mugs. Pages flipped. Keyboards clacked. Then came the gunmen, not with warning, not with mercy. By the end of that day, 148 people, most of them students just starting their lives, were slaughtered, slain in their beds. Their classrooms, their prayer rooms, their futures erased in minutes. It was one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in Africa's modern history. And yet, the world barely paused, barely whispered their names, barely watched. This is the story of Garissa University and the silence that followed the screams, the silence that still lingers. Garissa sits near the Somali border, just a dusty town, mostly quiet but too close to danger. Al-Shabaab, an Al-Qaeda linked extremist group, had been threatening Kenya for years. Ever since Kenyan troops entered Somalia in 2011, al-Shabaab vowed revenge. They struck malls, churches, buses, markets. There were warnings, reports, threat assessments, but Garissa University was left exposed. No reinforced security, no extra patrols, no evacuation plans. The night before the attack, some students heard rumors, whispers in dorms, something is coming. But rumors were common. Life went on until 5:30 a.m. Four armed men scaled the university's rear fence. They weren't in a rush. They had a plan. They shot the guards, then headed straight to the dorms. They knocked on doors pretending to be police. When students opened, the gunmen stormed in, firing, shouting, dragging them out. They began separating the students by religion. Muslims were told to recite the Shahada. If they could, they were spared. If they hesitated, they were shot. Some Muslim students tried to hide their Christian friends. Some lied, some died for it, but the killers kept going. Room by room, hall by hall, prayer rooms, lecture halls, common spaces. No one was safe. The siege lasted 15 hours. 15 hours of blood and chaos. Police hesitated. The army delayed. Command centers argued over jurisdiction. Meanwhile, inside, some students hid beneath blood-soaked bodies. Others texted desperate goodbyes. A few jumped from windows and broke their leg just to escape. The messages sent from inside were chilling. They are shooting us one by one. Please tell Mama I love her. We're in the library, send help. Outside, parents gathered, crying, begging, but no one had answers. When the military finally stormed the building, the attackers detonated suicide vests. 148 lives lost, many executed at point-blank range. Young men and women with notebooks still open, shoes still lined up neatly by dorm beds, books on chairs that would never be read again. The next day, silence swallowed Garissa. No students returned, no classes resumed. The university became a graveyard of memory. The day before Garissa, a plane crash in Europe dominated headlines. Wall-to-wall coverage. Every major network, every screen. Footage of grieving families replayed in slow motion. Interviews, background stories, memorial tributes, flags lowered, flowers laid. Global leaders flew in, stood shoulder to shoulder, and spoke of unity in sorrow. But 148 African students, young people slaughtered in classrooms, executed for their faith and their future. Just brief mentions, scroll past headlines, an alert at the bottom of the screen. There were no candlelit vigils in New York, no Eiffel Tower lit in solidarity, no marches in London, no viral hashtags that read Je suis Garissa, the global outcry, a whisper. And then nothing. Kenyans noticed, Africans noticed, the youth noticed, and they asked, do African lives matter less? It wasn't just a rhetorical question, it was a wound. Because the contrast wasn't subtle, it was loud. Loud in its silence, painful in its quiet, brutal in its indifference. A few local protests erupted in Nairobi and Garissa. Homemade placards held high, marchers chanted beneath tearful eyes, "We are not invisible. Remember their names. Don't let them die twice." But the protests didn't trend. The names weren't read aloud at the UN. There were no sweeping policy shifts, no international commissions. The world moved on fast. Some survivors were offered trauma counseling, short term, underfunded others, forgotten, vanished into bureaucratic cracks, relocated to other schools without proper support, haunted by nightmares, ignored by policy. One survivor later whispered in a documentary, his voice shaking, "We escaped the bullets, but were still running from the silence." And in that silence, they were forced to become their own therapists, their own storytellers, their own memorial. Because if the world would not remember them, they would remember each other. Garissa wasn't just an attack, it was a generation stolen, but they were not erased. Some survivors became advocates for peace. Others started small foundations in memory of the lost. A memorial scholarship now helps low-income students access education. Writers turned their trauma into poetry, music, and public storytelling. Every April 2nd, families light candles. They gather quietly. They read the names. Each name, each dream, each unfinished story. In classrooms across Kenya, teachers now pause to speak of Garissa not as a news headline, but as a lesson in vigilance, empathy, and memory. One mother who lost her only daughter visits high schools every year. She holds up her daughter's final school photo and says she wanted to be a doctor. Let your safety be her legacy. Today, the Garissa campus still stands. New students have returned. Life, as always, pushes forward, but the past is never forgotten. Some scars never heal, they just teach. So when the world tells you Africa is used to violence, you say, we are used to surviving, but we will never forget. And if you're ever tempted to scroll past a story because it's far away, because it's not in English, because it doesn't look like your pain, remember Garissa. Remember that silence too can kill. This isn't just tragedy. This is Omar's story Nook, where truth whispers between the lines and legacy refuses to fade. Until the next whisper of Omar, stay listening.